What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Down the Middle with Max and Los. Today, we have a very special podcast because we know how to use these things.
Look at that.
Yeah, there's going to be so much of that today. What's up, dude?
I'm really excited to just I'm not going to speak at all. There we go.
This is the best.
We got a 10-second laugh track that's just going to go in the,
This
the
one's
background.
this one's a little longer.
You can clip that down. We need to get a few different laugh track variations.
Oh, yeah.
It lingers there. It goes, there's like a little linger at the end.
It's just full sitcom. But yeah, man, where do you want to start today? So much happens every week now.
I know, a lot of stuff.
Do you know about the 900 people that got fired over Zoom?
No, but I'd love to start there.
Dude, I'm going to have to
pull up the story. We can talk about that. We can talk about the fucking tornadoes. We can talk about Business Insider did a piece on, they looked at every senator and congressman of like their Stock Act violations and basically which ones are the worst. And there's one, I got to pull them up too. We'll do your pull up and then I'll pull up the senator that has like 300 Stock Act violations, which is awesome.
You ever heard of better.com?
Better?
Yeah.
No.
All right. So the CEO of a mortgage company, which is kind of terrifying, but the CEO of a mortgage company called better.com over Zoom fired 900 people. Just was like, boom, hey guys, thanks for joining the meeting. Last meeting you're ever going to join, you're all fired, which is, super rude. And obviously that's crazy. But the big thing is it's the CEO of a mortgage company. So what does he know that we don't know?
That is interesting because either you're the worst run mortgage company in history or you're preemptively
doing something,
firing people
because you know
something, or it could also be, you never know with some of these financial companies, like there could be some, terrible stuff going on financially. Maybe he made some bad bets. Maybe he did something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
all
speculations
at this point.
No. But I was talking to a few friends about it, and it's, if you kind of go on the you don't know side, it's a little scary because like that means that there's probably some shifts happening immediately. I mean, you can think that it's going to happen with inflation, people not having jobs, people not wanting to have jobs, people not getting stimulus anymore, people not being able to pay their rents and mortgages, etc. It's not looking great in that particular regard.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we gotta start using. We gotta label these buttons so we know which ones to press. We don't press like the laugh one when it's serious. At some point, things need to cool down, right? It's insane. Like I told you this a while back. I mean, they're selling. We have a large community. Planned community they've been building out in Lake Nona.
Mm-hmm.
We were in there early. We got in, a year and a half ago, right? We got really great rates, but before home prices went up. And they're selling now like townhomes because it's got townhomes, smaller homes, regular homes. The townhomes are selling for what we paid for our house a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Our neighbor just listed their house for probably $120,000 more than we paid for our house. But our house is a corner lot. We upgraded everything in the house, like bare bones base,
right?
Smaller lot, everything. It's insane, and people are still buying it, and I don't know where it goes.
I was trying to get an Airbnb as a rental in Georgia, and it went from you guys have it to like the day that we put the offer in. 3 other people put offers in, and they're like, all right, guys, best and finals right now, and we were like, no, we did the math because it was a rental. We were like, this is what we're gonna offer, and we ended up not winning it because another guy went $125,000 over. I was like, dude, like this is insane, and there's other opportunities. Like we're looking at another house now, but it's just crazy, man. Like I feel like money doesn't matter, yet it matters the most, more than ever. So it's such a like discrepancy right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have, I think the labor participation rates like 61, 62%, something like that, which means that you have 40% plus or minus of the population, the working population, just not even trying to work, like just kind of out of the workforce.
Yeah.
So like the unemployment rate's not super accurate because it doesn't factor in that stuff, but I don't know what people are doing. Like it's fascinating to me. Like it's such a weird time because you have so many people just not working and deciding like they're just going to quit and not work, right? They want more pay, they want better better benefits, stuff like that. And then you also go to the mall, and it's the amount of spending happening. You go to the Apple store, everyone's buying iPhones and Macs.
Everything's sold out.
Louis Vuitton, it's lines out front the door. You got to wait to get into the shop. Rolex, you still can't get Rolexes anywhere. They don't even exist. It's literally, I think we talked about this. Like, I've been to 5 different Rolex stores in the last year just from traveling. Design District Miami. There's one, the biggest one in Millennia. It's the biggest seller in the country. Vegas. And it's not even like they have, display units. Like,
they don't have
even
any.
the window units, they don't have anything. It's literally just an empty store that says Rolex on it. And that's it.
It's crazy. Yeah, man. I wonder how much of it is NFTs, crypto, how much of it is that you're not gauging new freelancers, new people just trying to be entrepreneurs now, and that doesn't count. Or I don't know, because I'm thinking the same thing as you. Like, where's money come from? Like, we have to work. And like, we're doing pretty good, and we still have to like work. Like, how are you just surviving? It's
being printed. So I just started reading Ray Dalio's new book, which I got really lucky because I happened to be at the airport, and that's the only time I buy physical books anymore is like I'm at the airport, and I didn't download them on my phone. So I'm like, I'll grab a hard copy of a book. Plus, I just like having them in the library. But it's a really long title, so I forget the name of it. But essentially, it's about he's studied at Bridgewater like the last decade the rise and fall of empires and countries.
Right.
And he wanted to understand, like, what are the commonalities? What are the trends? What are the indicators of when world powers stop becoming world powers?
Right.
And so he looked at the last 2. He looked at America, then he looked at the British Empire, then he looked at the Dutch, because those are the 3 basically reserve currencies of the world. And then he looked at 6 other kind of world powers that he looked at China, he looked at Russia, he looked at China over the empire dynasty in China, and then China modern times, and it's fascinating because he's basically found like a pretty common pattern of what happens in these countries as they become superpowers, as they are the superpower, and then as they fall. And it's hard. Like, I'm reading this book, and I'm about halfway through, and it's hard to read. And I think this is something a lot of us struggle with, most Americans struggle with, is nobody in America. Like I said, the last time we've had a real crisis where a lot of things happen at the same time, that looks similar to what's happening now, 1930s. So the 1930s is the last time you had this massive credit debt crisis. You had massive wealth in gaps. You had massive gaps in social values, and you had a lot of just unrest. And we all know what happened then. It's World War II, right? So when you have people there's this massive gap in income, there's a massive gap in values, there's a lot of unrest, plus the credit debt bubbles burst, there's no more credit, there's no more money printing, anything like that, kind of everything just freezes, interest rates, everything freezes, and then people start saying, well, hey, I'm going to try something different. This might sound like a bad idea, but it's different than this idea, so let's try it. And that leads to people like Hitler, it leads to people like Stalin, it leads to people like Mussolini, right? That are promising a big change. It's like, hey, this system doesn't work. I have this vision, and this is what I'm going to promise you. And at that point, people are much more susceptible. So we have a hard time, most Americans, of imagining America not being the superpower, right? All of us, everybody, unless you're maybe in your 100 or something like that.
Right.
You don't know a time where America wasn't the leading superpower of the world, and on top, everything.
Right.
And so because we've never seen it and we can't comprehend it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that, people probably thought that during the British Empire and during the Dutch Empire,
right,
and during the Roman Empire, right? There's empires that have happened throughout history, and they've lasted 250 years, 1,000 years, but they all end, right? And they all usually end once that population gets too comfortable, right? Once people stop working as hard, once people are not as hungry anymore, once people get complacent and start complaining about things that aren't as important, things we've talked about on the show a lot. It
happens every day here.
That is a indicator based on what Dalio's looked at and based on what, you just look at history of when things start to go down, when you're at the other end of the cycle, because you have other countries that are hungry. You have other countries that want it more. They're not number one, and they want to be number one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, China's plotting against us. Where does it end? Where are you in the where do you see us now based off just reading that book? I just got the audio, but I haven't started to listen to it.
I mean, what ends up happening is you start losing those privileges that you have as that superpower, right? So things like being the reserve currency. If the dollar continues to be less and less valuable, and that's already happening with inflation that's out of control, and the dollar is just not what it used to be, and it's a fiat currency. It's no longer backed in gold, and it's been a long time. Having the reserve currency is a massive privilege and advantage in the world. Right. Everything is traded in dollars. Dollars is the universal currency. It allows us to print. It allows us to do a lot of things that other countries can't do. Once you start losing that, it becomes nearly impossible to recover. You're done. And so I already think, based on again, this is just based on Dalio's book, and I think it makes a lot of sense. We're already on the curve going down. Yeah. And if you look at all the other empires that follow this curve, there's never been a instance of one of those countries, one starts going down,
sliding
back up. It's never happened before.
Right.
It just falls quicker and quicker and quicker.
And if anything, you have 3 more years of guaranteed maintenance of this process, at least.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change in a legal way in the next 3 years.
Right.
Crazy shit happens when things go bad, right? And we've already seen that. I mean, there's you think about what happened after George Floyd and stuff. It's there were a lot of peaceful protests, but there were also a lot of riots. There was cities that were burned down. There were whole areas that were destroyed. There were police departments that were vacated. This isn't a theory anymore, a concept. This has happened in cities, and it's not a stretch to think that if that went a little further, what happens? What happens if you don't just have the fringe doing this? You don't have just the far
the majority,
and it's an extra 5-10% of people that get behind it. It's hard to stop that, right? That was kind of manageable, and people kind of faded out, and I think COVID also helped keep a lot of people afraid from going out and participating. But you get 10, 20 more million people really engaged like that, and you don't have the pandemic terrifying people to stay home. I think there's a point where people just don't leave, right? You already had it was in Seattle. You had that autonomous zone. You had a few hundred people, a few thousand people, literally just set up a little 5-block radius country. That happened.
Dude, I was in LA last week for meetings, and I've been going to LA for a decade. And I went to West Hollywood, had to do some stuff around Beverly Hills, and my friend that I went to see was like, "Hey, dude, you guys shouldn't have rented that car." We like to rent nice cars for it's fun to drive them and stuff like that. We have a Turo hookup there because we've gone so much. So we got the new Corvette. It's freaking awesome. Right? It's not a crazy car. It's a fun car for 2 people. Yeah. And I was wearing this and a jacket. It was not impressive. And he's like, "Hey man, you can't be dressing like this. You can't be driving that car like this." I was like, "Dude, we're in West Hollywood." He's like, "West Hollywood in LA and Beverly Hills, you're safer in Compton right now. People are going to your house and stealing and robbing you flat out. The police are doing nothing. It's the craziest scene." And the day I left, I went to San Diego. I had the TV on as I was getting dressed, and the mayor or someone there was like, "Hey guys, don't come to LA. We cannot protect you. This is like the purge." It's crazy, the things that are happening in state to state. You know what I mean? I definitely don't know. You can't predict it because we end up living in our own worlds. You
live in a bubble.
Yeah, you can understand what's happening everywhere, but at the same time, for us in Florida, for example, nothing is wrong, right? You go to LA, everything is on fire. You go to OC, it's back to Florida style. It's every single pocket is just operating in their own accord, in their own directions, or being told what to do and following it.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's going to that bubble conversation. You only see what you see, right? Anything outside of that kind of inner circle, you don't really understand. It's hard to think that things are different because this is all you experience. But even I was at my sister's wedding this weekend, and I got to it's always great seeing family and people that, just, you don't talk to on a regular basis, but you talk to when you're, doing family stuff.
Right.
And my one cousin, who I've always been really close with, and he's a really amazing engineer, worked at Google right out of college. This was like 10 years ago when it was really like, that was like the biggest job you could get.
Yeah.
And then worked a bunch of startups, got acquired by Google, worked at a lot of big tech companies. And, we're basically talking, he's like, I think I'm like an anarchist now. Like straight up, just like, and he's always been like, more liberal, more progressive. Most of my family on that side is more liberal, more progressive on that side. And he's like, yeah, I think I've kind of becoming like, and it was interesting. We just had this long conversation about like, how he views things and how what he thinks about things and me talking about it. And honestly, like his explanation of like why he views things that way and like what he thinks, like anarchist is obviously a very strong word. Right. But I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree. Like it wasn't like we were in an argument. It's like, we disagreed. We disagreed on maybe a few things, but like in general, like his reasoning for that and the fact, like he was saying, a lot of my friends feel like we have kind of this view, I think, that like anarchists and these like crazy progressives are like crazy people. There's like, a few hundred of them that kind of live somewhere. But after that conversation, like there's probably a lot more people that like identify that way or have thoughts that would be considered like kind of anarchist thoughts. And that's not good for like our current democracy. Like it's saying something of a lot of people who are smart, intelligent, well-educated people, that have very normal and like grew up in very normal and like not growing up in, environments that would cause that are just like the system's fucked. Like and for anybody that's listening, basically, I mean, at that point when you're kind of a anarchist or in, identifying that world, it's like you're basically at that point saying it's like the current system just doesn't work and is unfixable. And it needs to just be something totally new needs to come in. It needs to be like, you need to clean the playing field.
Right.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. We'll talk in the next topic about like the Insider article about all the Stock Act violations, like the corruption in DC and in big pharma and in big business and in big tech is so deep and it's so into the roots that I don't think any one president can change. Like Trump was what people did. Like Trump was the response to that. People voted in Trump. It was a populist movement because a lot of people were just fed up with career politicians. They were fed up with the normal state of things. They were fed up with everything. Said, we're going to vote this guy in because that's not who he is. He kind of, he is that, but he marketed himself as not as that. And he tried to change things. He tried to shake things up, and he did for maybe his presidency, but nothing really changed.
No.
Right? Nothing changed. We voted back in. We went back to stability, voted in Biden, and we're right back to exactly where we were.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed. And I think a lot of people are seeing this and saying, why do we keep doing this? What's the point of these elections every 2 to 4 years, whether it's for Congress or whether it's for presidency or whether it's for my governor or whatever it might be? If it's like every election cycle,
we're getting screwed.
It's the same candidates that are supported by the same special interest groups that make the same promises and never change anything. Nothing fundamentally changes ever. And if there's ever a major change, it gets reversed in the next cycle.
Easy.
So what's the point?
So let's go to topic number 2. Try to lighten it up.
That's nice.
Right? I just lightened it up.
Yeah.
What's topic number 2?
Well,
I think you started with it.
Not getting much lighter. It's just going to
that's
continued
true.
corruption, but the sparkle music made it.
After
it
this week, we might
makes
stop.
me so happy. No, I love it. I don't care.
We'll find other funnier.
Yeah, we'll add more sounds in there.
Yeah.
I need like a Seinfeld style laugh track.
Yes.
So, Insider, Business Insider, which I used to really like them. They used to put a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of their shit now has gotten super like political. A lot of the content they put out there is like, is this Business Insider or is this like Vogue or Cosmo or it's strange. But anyway, so they I've looked at like trades and reports from senators and congressmen because they have to disclose. Like, there's a lot of rules around investing if you're a U.S. politician, right? Because you have insight into a lot of stuff. Just like if you're, Tim Cook, you can't make certain trades,
Right.
And some of these, they basically rank them from like people. These are good. They're on the fringe or like danger.
Full
like
on
they're
shady.
full on like doing a lot of bad shit. And there was like, I would say 20%, 25% that were in the kind of yellow, like danger zone. And then there was like 10 or 12 that were maybe more that were just full on like red flag. And so like Dianne Feinstein is one, which everyone knows she's just like a career corrupt politician for not disclosing a bunch of investments. And then this dude, Senator Tommy Tuberville, a Republican from Alabama, he was weeks or months late in disclosing nearly 130 separate stock trades. 130 stock trades.
Months late.
He was either weeks or months late in disclosing them. And I think it was like, the fines and stuff were like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's a bunch of others. There's, Senator Roger Marshall, there's Senator Rand Paul, there's Mark Kelly. So it's Democrats, it's Republicans.
I mean, they're both shady. That's a lot of them. That's why they get in. They get the insider trading. They make their plays. They get fed a lot of opportunities and money.
And what's amazing is that there's no like real repercussions. Like the fines that they get are like really tiny for each one of these infractions.
Yeah.
Like the way I look at it,
they write it.
Yeah. The way I look at it is if you're a U.S. politician, you shouldn't be allowed to make any individual stock trades. It should be your money, your 401k, your IRA, whatever it is managed by a independent firm, and that firm acts as your fiduciary. They're going to operate in your best interest, and they're going to buy, just mutual funds or things like that. And they're not going to tell you. There's going to be no communication. You just give them money each month, each quarter, each year, and they manage it for you while you're in office. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing, right? It's like you're still going to make, market returns probably 6 to 8% a year.
Yeah.
You're still going to be well off and set.
Yeah. If you want to make your own choices, then get out of office.
Get out of office. Because there's no way that these politicians can say, and I'm sure these are just like the violations that know about.
That's just the tip.
But like some of these are on subcommittees for trade. They're on all these committees where they know like, hey, next month we're going to be putting in a tariff on this country. We're going to put a trade embargo here. We're going to release oil reserves here. Like, and that this is going to cause prices to move on oil. It's going to cause prices to move on the stock. It's going to cause this stock to collapse. Like, it's such blatant corruption on both sides, and the fact that, again, this goes back to my point last topic of like people are seeing this. I think for a long time these people got away with it because there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't all this transparency. Now you have anybody can be an investigative journalist. Like anybody can go out there and have a YouTube channel and just start digging, right? And share that with millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. So I think a lot of people are just like operating in a different world, and now they're getting caught, but there's no repercussions.
And there's not going to be. I mean, I don't really think that changes at all. That's why they're career politicians. They're not doing it to change the world. Clearly the world doesn't change, it gets worse, but it gets better for them.
Yeah. How about the I think it was the Pelosi Stock Watch Twitter account that got shut down?
Yeah.
Along with the Ghislaine Maxwell Twitter account?
Yep.
We can talk about that. Like,
it's still huge on TikTok. Like, you just follow her, you make trades, like that portfolio wins. Point blank, period.
I think her net worth's in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Her salary is like a couple $100,000.
$250,000, $350,000 a year.
How do you turn that? How do you flip?
And the fact that like that's not a serious question. It's like
it's a joke around people that are in Twitter and social media, but like the government's like, oh,
yeah,
whatever.
All of us, anybody with a brain knows that. That's like, how, okay, she makes $250,000 a year. She's basically been in politics her entire life. Even if she makes $400,000 a year, it's still like,
how's that math?
How do you get from $400K a year to $200 million without doing some sketchy shit?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't. You don't have the budget.
Yet you have these, these just crooked assholes that get on TV every day and talk down to us and tell us what to do, and then get frustrated when people are not doing what they want us to do anymore. And they're like,
and they don't.
They're confused.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's you lead by example, right? When you lead a country or a company or a family or a group, whatever it is, you lead by listening and by doing, by action, right? Not by words. The leaders who talk the most aren't the best leaders. And so you look at these people, and it's during COVID, it was the same politicians who were saying to, stay in your house and wear masks.
Yeah.
They were going on vacation. They were at dinners not wearing masks.
They were in
They were
Cabo.
doing everything they said not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the investing. So, pay your fair share of taxes. Do this. And they're doing the exact opposite. They're wondering why their approval rating is going down. Why are people not listening to us anymore? Why are people distrusting the government? They're conspiracy theorists. Like, no, we're not conspiracy theorists. The average Americans are just smart.
Right.
They're just, they have eyes. You don't have to be smart. It's just they have eyes, ears, and a functioning brain.
It's in your face.
Yeah.
It's literally in your face now.
Yeah. So that one, and then the Ghislaine Maxwell Twitter account, that Twitter that was tracking the trial, like that's not a good look if you're the new CEO of Twitter and in your first week after you made all these statements on how free speech isn't really that important, the First Amendment's not important, you pull some massive Twitter accounts that literally just are tracking the trades of one of the biggest politicians in the world who's incredibly corrupt, and the biggest trial in the country in a long, long time, where it's connected to basically all these points of power. You have connections to presidents, you have connections to kings, you have connections to, Bill Gates and all these CEOs.
All the Fortune 100s.
And none of that's come out yet. It's like, there should be this massive dump of documents. Like, the American people deserve to know, like, what happened on those islands. Like, what did he know? What did Epstein know? What did she know? Like, there's no way that all these people who went to the island didn't do some at least gray stuff, but I guaranteed illegal stuff at some point.
I mean, that's why you went to an island, it's nuts. So this is something that I've been thinking about, questioning myself more and more, just what is with all these things happening, because there's this, and then there's massive business explosions. There's money everywhere as well, right? Like, we talk about this all on every episode. What do you think 2023 looks like for business owners? We work a lot with people in the e-commerce space, service consulting, advertising space. Like, this, obviously the biggest year for e-commerce I think ever was 2020. And I don't necessarily think 2021 matched that energy, right, at all. Like, it's a roller coaster. It's like, like if you look, we work with a lot of people in e-com. Black Friday was amazing or abysmal, or just kind of like a regular Tuesday. You know what I mean? It was weird. Normally, you're just guaranteed like crazy growth. Everything's amazing. Everything's rising on prices. You're getting shut down. The economy is kind of shutting down. It showed technically, if you look at the stats, it was the biggest Black Friday, but like we know online, it was totally different than normal. And I'm wondering, like, what does that look like for entrepreneurs and business owners in 2023? Where should they be focused on? What should they be doing? Like, even for us, with a lot of our brands, we're thinking about restructuring, adding new things, just kind of thinking, well, what if the economy did this? Or what if the economy does this? And just kind of prepping. I don't think people prep enough. They just kind of go, and then it happens. And then the other thing that we've just been sitting around thinking about is, like, if something does happen, it's negative, but that just creates opportunities, right? There's going to be opportunities in down economies and negative times like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think inflation is going to continue to increase, and inflation is primarily a tax on lower and middle income people, it generally benefits governments and wealthy individuals, because it allows you, and that's one of the theories, is that, we're intentionally inflating the dollar because it allows us to pay back our debt obligations in cheaper money, essentially. So we get a better deal paying down debt because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you own real estate and you have debt, you have mortgages, or
it's cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper, and it works in your interest. So if you're looking to, hey, I want to make some investments. I want to acquire hard assets or capital equipment for my business, or I want to acquire businesses. And you would think that inflation is going to continue to increase, like acquiring, income producing assets when you can pay back that over 7-8 years at a, lower value dollar, like as long as you feel confident you can grow those businesses and you can use that cash, that's the double-edged sword, right? It's like
you're arbitraging.
You're producing cash, but that cash that you're also making is also worth less while you're paying it back. So as long as you can invest that capital intelligently and maybe put into more hard assets, that becomes an interesting play. In terms of like just where do I think, like from a general business owner, things are going to be in 2023, and beyond 2022, 2023, the next kind of 2 to 3 years. I don't have really any clarity. I thought I had more clarity, but there's so much happening. There's still so much uncertainty when it comes to the pandemic. There's so much uncertainty when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the supply chain. There's so much backlog in just the supply chain,
right?
At the point of production, at the point of distribution. I don't know. It's a flip of a coin. Like whether things are going to get a lot better or a lot worse. I think it could go either way. Yeah. And I think what dictates which way it goes, it isn't a big thing. Doesn't need to happen one way or the other. It's kind of like a gentle nudge. Right. Either way moves you further and further.
Significant push. Yeah.
Down the road. I don't know what your thoughts are, but yeah, I don't. Other than how to use kind of cash and capital. Yeah. That's a little more clear. But when it comes to like operating a business, what business you're going to do well, I still think a lot of last thing I'll say is I still imagine that there's going to be incredible labor issues. I think there's going to be a lot of issues for brick and mortar businesses, for kind of physical businesses that need a storefront, that need, people walking into their stores to buy stuff. You just don't have help. You can't get inventory. You can't get labor. That's really challenging for people like us. I don't think there's much of a change.
So I think it's going to, I just really think it's going to turn into a variation of a third world country more and more and more, because you're going to have people that, in some regard, in some businesses, capital is going to be like in your pocket. They're saving all their money, and people like us or other people that think differently are going to be putting all their assets in crypto, real estate, and actual assets, because the dollar is going down. Like, why would I keep money and watch it go down? Basically, I think it goes down. I don't remember how much, like per minute or something. It's ridiculous. And so on a capital allocation, smart people will allocate their capital in assets. On a business, and when things keep going down, people are going to be tight with their wallet. So it will affect some companies, but I also think it creates opportunities for other brands and other, like there was a lot of businesses that blew up because of COVID. There's other businesses that, if they're mid-ticket e-commerce, they might slow down a little bit, but if they're lower, they can produce a lot, because a lot of people buy from fear as well. So depending, like one of your businesses, I think is going to thrive. Next 5 years is going to be ridiculous for that business. For like our masterminds and our service stuff, I think we're fine because people need to create revenue. And so I think that's more of an opportunity as well. But for some e-commerce businesses that, you kind of have 1 or 2 SKUs, you're having problems bringing in inventory, you don't have new SKUs, rising prices are going up, and people are holding on their pockets. Certain brands might have to figure out how to readjust.
Yeah. I think if it's taught us anything the last few years, it's the need to diversify.
Right.
Right. Like if you're all in on a single e-com store, or you have a single agency, and that's where all your income comes from, that's where all of your time goes into, that's in general a scary proposition. But especially today with how uncertain things are, we own a bunch of different businesses in a bunch of different markets.
Right.
Right. From very expensive stuff to very cheap mass market stuff.
Right.
We have, the mastermind, we have consulting, we have an agency, we have e-com stores, we have content sites, we have just this kind of range of products for different markets. And so if one has a rough, year, rough few months,
you're still good.
It's not impacting me personally.
Right. Yeah, no, we're in the same boat. What other topic you got? This is the last one we have time for. Any new things?
I mean, we can talk about what's going on in just in general in crypto. We always like talking about.
Yeah.
It's I've been
crypto talk.
There needs to be a much scarier noise, like an explosion or something.
Good joke. Okay. This is our crypto segment. We'll figure this stuff out, guys. Yeah, so crypto's going down. I think it's fine. A lot of people are losing their minds on it. I think it's logical that crypto, it was going good for a while. I've been staking a lot of stuff on Wonderland and testing out all their APYs. It's actually surprisingly been pretty good. I'm keeping what I started with. I'm not getting like too excited about it because, you never know what's going on. After 6 weeks or so, if I can kind of like see what that's looking like, I might start putting a little bit more money in that because if coins are going down, that's staying pretty stable. And as far as crypto going down, I think that it'll come back up. I mean, it's the end of the year. A lot of people want to realize those gains. I know that there's some changes happening in crypto and how it's taxed in 2022. So it would make sense. But I don't think a lot of people are saying it's a bear market. We're going to be in trouble, blah, blah, blah. I don't see crypto going down and also our fiat currency going down at the same time for long. Like one of them is going to come up and it's going to be crypto.
Yeah, you can't have the stock market falling, crypto falling, and the dollar falling at the same time for a long period of time. Eventually, they need to split out.
Right. And I mean, if you look at what's happening with just crypto in general, man, like people are buying. I was talking to Sean, one of your partners in a business. I went to his house, and we were talking about some ridiculous things that I'll share with you offline. But we both were like, dude, that's the future of the world. And so I'm like, there's a lot of investing going on crypto, and you need certain coins to invest in those coins. So if you're if you're using those coins to hold because they're the currency of how other things are used, I think you're fine, and it'll continue to go back up. I don't think crypto's going anywhere for a long, long time. If anything, we need to keep getting better at understanding not just crypto, NFTs, gaming, just the whole ecosystem, because there's so much inside of each and everything can spider out into like 100 different webs.
Yeah, and I mean you have Nike yesterday acquiring RTFKT, the NFT shoe brand.
Yep.
Which they didn't disclose how much they paid for it, but I imagine it's a lot. So you have a lot of the big D2C brands, big companies that are either starting their own things or acquiring.
Chipotle
AMC released they've released 2 or 3 NFT collections. They do one for Ghostbusters. So yeah, it's becoming much more common.
Mm-hmm. Disney just did theirs, sold out in seconds.
Yeah, Disney's doing it. Disney's launching to Metaverse. I think it's hard to say this is just like a bunch of kids, buying JPEGs at this point. It's too much institution behind it, and it's too much of a technological trend. I think these are just kind of first use cases. But yeah, the way I look at it is like if you're bullish on the mega trends, then what happens day to day, month to month, even year to year shouldn't matter. If you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, like you shouldn't even like people that are day trading and stuff, like I get it, like a lot of people they make a lot of money day trading. Statistically, most people don't make a lot of money day trading, but they're vocal. People that are vocal say they are. It's just make money, invest it monthly, dollar cost average,
right,
and play that out for 30, 40 years. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I get it if you're younger. Like you said, if you're in your 20s and you're like, this is how I'm making all my money. But as older people, I guess, it's just easier. And I mean, we actually have work to do, right? Like if I had nothing else and I was only to sit there and like watch videos and look at charts and look at candles, maybe I would day trade, but like it's just not worth the time. I'd rather invest in things like I'm putting a lot of money into Sandbox. First time we ever talked about Sandbox, it was 20 cents. It's $4 and something now. I think it's going to go up to $30 and possibly at one point, I don't know when, I'm not a predictor, it's not financial advice, $100, no problem. Because it's just where the world is working right now for those things. And I look at it, it's like, well, if you got to buy real estate there and you got to do this and you got to hang out, like, well, you're using Sandbox, we'll just put money into that. I'd rather just put money into the ecosystem. I do want to buy some real estate, but, that's for another conversation. I got to figure all this whole metaverse thing out first.
Same here.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's pretty good. That wraps us up for today. If you guys want to get in touch with us, as always, go to Los Hustle on Instagram and @MaxFin. We will have better laugh tracks for the next one. If you're getting ready for the holidays, we are probably going to have one more episode here for the holidays for you guys and one for New Year's. Please share this with everybody that you know. For the most part, we talk about everything. We're pretty down the middle. We have a lot of similar opinions, but we're always open. If you guys have different opinions, hit us up. Let us know if you have data or anything you guys want us to bring up, or any other topics that you guys want us to talk about. Let us know. So that is it for myself and Max. We will see you on the next one, guys. Bye.
Bye.